Hey everybody, welcome back to another Rosh Reviews, where today we are in a 1994 Nissan Skyline R32 GTR, and this is the special one. This is the V-SPEC2. Oh yeah. Now everybody knows the GTR. It's one of the most loved JDM cars in existence, and they came out in 1989, long time ago, and these 32s went all the way until 1994, this being the last iteration, the V-SPEC2. Now, what the actual V-SPEC2 got over a regular GTR was BBS wheels, bigger brakes, and it did actually get a tune on the all-wheel drive system here. So actually not a huge amount, surprisingly enough. And the reason why these ones are so valuable, more so than the other ones, is mainly just production numbers. And in total, the R32, there was something 44,000, almost just under 44,000 were made total units here. And when we're talking about the V-SPEC1, just under 1,400. The V-SPEC2 that we're in today, 1,306. That's it. And yeah, they're quite rare. Just hearing the noise again. Yep, it'll move. Now onto the bonnet of this car. Look, it's got Godzilla, the 2.6 liter twin turbocharged inline six RB26D ETT, and Japanese gentlemanship agreed number horsepower here 276. Talking about 260 pound-feet of torque. So these things are not that torquey. They are a little bit light. You know, obviously you got to open them up, but these did make more than 276 horsepower. I believe the general consensus was that they were pushing closer to that like 320 brake horsepower mark. And, you know, it's not a slouch, this car. It isn't. This particular car, it does not have a ridiculous amount of modifications here. We've got BC coilovers on it, titanium downpipe, custom exhaust, and it's been tuned, but it's basically running factory numbers to the wheels here. And it's just a nice, healthy street number. It really is. That's actually quite a funny story, because the owner of this particular R32 GTR V-SPEC2 is a good friend of mine, Hank, and he actually helps out a lot behind the scenes on the channel here. You know, comes out, gives me a hand filming, you know, really does help quite a lot with what you see here on Rosh Reviews. And we have been trying to organize this review for basically since I started the channel, and 3 years later we're here, we're in the V-SPEC2, and today is a very good day. Now the reason why this actually took so long to actually be featured and for us to be sitting and reviewing this car today is because, unfortunately, Hank, my good man, he got this car, he imported it himself from Japan, and it came with no oil in the engine, and that's a bit of a problem. So he has been saving and, you know, working on this thing for the past 2 and a bit years to rebuild this motor, get this car complied, back on the road, and he's finally done it. And, you know, to see this thing here now, all the work he's put into this car, it really is something special to see. And look, just the fact this is nearly a 30-year-old car, it's based on a 30-year-old plus car, is absolutely mind-bending, because sitting in the driver's seat, you just feel so hugged, so planted in the seat. The short throws on this, you know, coming into a real tight hairpin here, and you know, we've got those active steering in the rear as well that is working. And the steering, it is just the biggest delight of this car. Yeah, the more you push this car and the more you go tighter in the hairpins and, you know, carve it up, you can really feel the back end of this thing start to go with you. It's almost like you're just about to initiate a drift, but it's actually the wheels turning for you to pull you out of that corner. And you really gotta trick your brain here, because it does actually start to feel a little bit sketchy, but you are in total control here. And yeah, you can do some ridiculous speeds around corners in this car. It is, and for a 30-year-old platform plus, no wonder this thing was dominating the racetrack. Now, a cool little fact about this car is it's actually build number 2. So out of the 1306, this was number 2 off of Nissan's production line. And the V-Spec actually stands for Victory Specification, because you guys should know as well, in the 90s, these GTRs were absolutely dominating just about every race circuit. And that's why they made these in V-Spec. It's the Victory Specification for all their championships they've been winning. And even here in Australia, you heard the name Gibson Motorsports. Down here in Australia, we term these cars Godzilla, with that RB26 up front. It is just an absolute monster. Now, price of these cars, look, the last couple of years, especially since COVID, these have absolutely skyrocketed. As America can import these now, the values have just gone crazy. So, brand new, if you're gonna pick one of these up in Japan, they're gonna set you back about 5.2 million Japanese yen. And that is for the V-Spec2 here. Equate that to Australian dollars, you'd be looking around that like 55 grand. And that is just a direct translation. So, you know, I don't know what the yen was doing back then, but this wasn't a cheap car. And if you actually translate 55 grand in 1994, you know, this thing will well and truly been over $100,000 equivalent. And now on the used market, it's still over $100,000 equivalent. It's just, this thing is expensive. And if you're gonna get a nice one, especially a V-Spec2, you're gonna be paying about $100,000 to $120,000 here in Australia. We drop it down in a second. And again, just the steering is really, oh, it just slingshots you out. And you know, you gotta be quick with those changes. But man, if you are a skilled driver in this car, you can work some bloody magic. I tell you what, like it is impressive. And again, just for the age of this car, the fact it's running just, you know, basically standard power to the wheels. Yeah, Jesus, it's impressive. Now, I've previously reviewed an R32 GTR on this very road that was pushing, though, about 500 wheel horsepower. And that was scary. If you haven't seen that video, you can go ahead and click the pop-up banner if you want. That had the worst brakes I could have remembered for a long time. This, being the V-Spec2, it did get a brake upgrade, noticeably better. Noticeably easier on the brakes here. You know, there is actually some life in these pedals, and yeah, I feel way more confident in this car than I did that. I've actually reviewed another R32 GTR in the hills of Osaka while I was in Japan recently, so if you guys haven't seen that video, I'll leave a link for it. It also gives a little bit different perspective, and I don't think the high-cast steering was working in that one either, because it's noticeably different to me driving this one today, and I like it. Now, 0 to 100, guys, we are on this back road. We are going to reset the draggy. chuck it in first. There's no like modes or anything here, so we just build it up. $100. I don't know what that sound was, but I think it was just the wheels gripping maybe, but yeah. 4,000 RPM, clutch dump. Let's see what the time was. Now 0 to 100 was done in 6.5 seconds here, and look, I don't know where the sweet spot of this car is. I think you definitely could get a quicker time. I think you could potentially be in the 5s in this car. You just have to get this thing to launch and hook up and hit those RPMs hard, because it does bog a little bit at the beginning, and that's where you're losing that second. So it's still quick. Let's remember, this thing is over 30 years old, this platform. It's nearly 30 years old, this exact car. So it's impressive. Now, if I'm going to be comparing this engine to, say, the 2JZ GTE, which is probably its biggest competitor, I feel like I kind of like the 2J engine a little bit more, but I've driven the Mark IV Supra. I've done some nice ones. I like this car better, but I do like the 2JZ engine, I feel like, a little bit better. It just feels like a little bit more open, you know, easier to send it. This just, it feels like it has a little bit of resistance in it. And again, it's not a tuned one or anything, so, you know, there's potential here to open it up. But in terms of just the platform of the car, this R32, it is superior to the Supra. It just is. Like, driving both of them, there's no question. Now, I'm going to finish the video off here today. So look, a huge, huge thanks to my good mate Hank for allowing me to take out his V-SPEC2 R32 GTR here, because it's his pride and joy. It's a beautiful machine, and I absolutely love this car. The high cast system, just seeing one that is, you know, just really nicely done, basically stock power to the wheels here. It is just the thing of beauty. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you learned something. If you did, make sure you hit that like button. Consider subscribing. We'll see you on that next video.